Everyone to today's I2I interview with Eduard from the Netherlands, actually currently in Spain. Hi Eduard, how are you?
I'm okay.
You were not.
A little bit hot, but I had to put out the airco because it's too noisy. But I'm fine.
It's nice to see you again. Last time I saw you in person actually was 2017 on one of my very first festivals with Infinity, the Mandala Festival in the Netherlands, and you were DJing, playing music.
Yes, but I also had a stand, remember?
Yes.
Where I done some personal one-on-one healings and some other funny stuff.
Yeah, and you had a lot of geometric symbols on your tent, I remember, and we started to get into conversation right away. So, Divine Tools, yeah, you're currently working in this project and I guess trying to enhance consciousness. How did you get into this project? And what are Divine Tools?
Well, the word itself, it says already, it's only called Divine Tools because it's on the end only tools and it's not the real divine in the essence, because in the end, I think it's just permanent tools to use. So at one point we can do it just ourselves by our own power. So it's just a temporary point that can take many years, can be one day, I hope one day, but probably some years. As you can see, the human nature, we need to get used to some things. So how I get involved into Divine Tools? That's a long road. It's more about questioning what is life, what is real, what's not real. Oh, all of us doing this. But basically, what I developed is how we can put information into any object digitally or physically. Because first I was working with geometry, because I'm also a therapist and work with DNA activation codes and clearing certain traumatic experiences, that sort of things, by the use of coding, by the way. So I thought so how can we make this for a big group? Then I thought with field projections and beautiful lights and everything. But then I was like, yeah, but that's just the ego, wants to make it look beautiful. I thought if we are living in a hologram, and either way it's godly or not or simulated, it doesn't matter. It's beautiful anyway. So I can also think of another way. I locked myself up for 3 days looking out of the window and just thought about how actually sound creates light. Because a lot of people think it's the other way around, but it isn't. I actually saw how an explosion works, how the timeline works for flies, insects, because for us, they live maybe a few days, but for them, it is just as long as we experience life. So even though, for example, sound comes later to you, the sound was first before you see the flash of light, for example, with an explosion.
You said sound comes first, and this is definitely, I resonate with this a lot, especially because I'm in India right now, and here in the philosophies, I talk a lot about Om, right? Om was the first sound, and actually, even if you think about science and the Big Bang Theory, it's actually sound that can initiate the Big Bang because it can transfer to density. Light doesn't do that. So that's just...
Yes, but you have to look to this sort of sound level differently than acoustic waves. Mm-hmm. Let's say like the primordial sound fields, what is just beyond our comprehension to understand. But in science, we call it scalar waves, non-local standing still waves. It means it's a wave that's everywhere, doesn't move, but only flashes on and off at certain places. So we say the reality is always in movement, constant change, but it isn't. It actually only flashes off from source to reality at certain places and times. That's why it looks like moving. Just on a television screen, it has all the pixels on the screen on your computer, for example. It looks like movement, but it's just lights going on and off at certain places, what's already predefined. So that is actually how real reality works. And from this point, and I started to go back to the beginning before we go lost in all of reality. So I started first okay, I can record energies just with a microphone. That's how I started. 10 years ago. And I used this as was DJing or making meditation music. Then I came into contact with subtle energy sciences and worked a little bit with them. Or actually it's one person. And he was using a different sort of algorithm to actually amplify those sort of energies. So I developed together, by the way, the Fine Tools not only by me, it's also from Bernardo Oliveira. That's my partner in the Fine Tools. So together with him, we developed an algorithm that is based on a crystal sequence ratio, where we can actually, by an algorithm onto a server, capture this quantum signature. But by the way, every object has its own, quantum signature. What defines it, what it's gonna be or is. So where we record this essence, but since this, when you record it, I have some special equipment for this. It's such a weak signal. It's like a homeopathic signal almost. So it is a tenth of a billion or whatever. So with a special algorithm, we amplify this for a few days long until we amplify the original signal billions of times. And then with this billions of times amplified signal, I can take this from the server, and yes, it's all digital, and place it into music, movie, book covers, prints, t-shirts, medicines, anything. So how I got into this, it's a long journey. It's not just from one day, it works like this, let's do it like this. No, it's a lot of test and trial in this process. And what does not work, what does work. So what we record is substances, for example, plants, medicines, or objects. For example, equipment that has a high energy radiation. But also what we use is feelings or intents. We can also record even this. So then we can put this into any object that will become stable. Because we as humans are very powerful and we can have an intent and place it there. But we are not so very big masters yet. Our emotions and our thoughts throw us off, and then our intent is lost and it weakens off. So what we do, we can record any intent in this case and make it stable and amplify, and it will always be that strong, ever and ever. Then the next level of this, I also use coding in it. And this coding, what I received from another universe, because actually a code is like a book. It has so many information in it that is not just one word or one sentence. It is actually a whole informational field that is actually can be learned and perceived in one singular moment instead of you have to read it word by word like this.
Question to the scalar waves. I was just reading a little bit about it before. So these are the waves that somehow they can't be measured, and yet they can go through anything like the Earth without having any troubles. So can you explain a little bit more what it is? I have an idea about it, how I would translate it into geometry actually, but how would you describe it? Where do they come from?
Well, you have two ways of looking at it. So you have non-local, still standing waves. That means it says already non-local. It doesn't have a place, time, or so they are actually all the time, everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You get into the quantum knowledge. So of course there are people here who use scalar wave equipment. But in my vision, and probably some of them will get a little bit upset about it, but it's just my experience, that is a reproduction of sending information into that scalar field pattern. So that means you can do healing on distance, you can do, because it doesn't have any time or place, and then you come into quantum entanglement and that sort of things. So basically what it is, non-local still standing scalar waves are waves, information field, how we say, you can almost call it is basically the source energy. That's how you can call it.
Yeah, for me, it reminds me a lot about fourth dimensional geometries because, in a sense, we're living in a 3D world where, as you said, if this is a hologram and actually time is just like a lot of 3D pixels that's just changing, and that's why we think it's movement, but actually it's just a lot of frames that are happening. But these frames, they are, let's say, expressed through higher dimensional geometries, like for example the torus. So we don't actually see the torus, but the torus manifests things and then it gets out of existence and it manifests things. So for me, maybe I can see a link there.
And that's correct. And that happens also millions of times a second. So it is, it goes flashing on and off. That's why it's, So let's say the scalar field is the field, and that's the scientific way to explain it. What is basically source in a way. So it's flashing on and off, what creates movement. And from this flashing on and off, also the geometry starts to take shapes. By the way, first the non-hearable sound, then the geometry, and then from the geometry the light, and then from the light the matter, and then so we go further.
I like that. That's a very nice order. What are these quantum signatures you're talking about? Do they have something to do with how sound and geometry work together?
Nobody really understands fully yet. But it's true. Even the PhDs and the superstar scientific people, they also, because it states actually what we define it to be, or by observing it becomes what we think it is. And even the laws that comes with it, because we think it's the way it works. So then this is how it works. You see, here we have the proof. This is the scientific method, the atoms, the molecules, and everything. Yeah, but all of that came part of it because you agreed it to be true. So therefore, going into the quantum field of things, it is, on a way, a self-thought-up truth and belief. And that is not just for the quantum signatures and quantum reality. It is for all life forms. So to state an absolute truth is to state, first of all, we have no clue about it. And the next thing is there is no absolute truth if we go deep into this. So to go back to quantum signatures, so I say to explain something that we just talked earlier about, okay, we have the field. From the field is some information beyond our comprehension. From this, the objects in living matter and our experiences. So we can go to the essence of things. And in this case, I call it the quantum signature to already explain that we actually, quantum, that means we have no clue, basically. Just a little joke. It makes us humble to do that.
We do.
Everything to go back in human understanding, everything has its own unique frequency. And I choose to call quantum signature because frequency, we immediately think about sound waves and oscillation. What is this frequency? Okay, it's more easier for us to understand. But if you say it's a quantum signature, what is this guy saying? You understand? Because then we go into the realm where everything makes sense and no sense at the same time.
Yes, it's true. I've been actually talking about this, the atom, yesterday in my broadcast. There is this probability idea that we don't know exactly where things are and how fast they're going, but we still know one thing, that actually every electron of the so-called energy can be located in certain symmetries and in certain geometries. And I'm more curious, how can geometric knowledge help us as well alongside the sound frequency or scalar waves you're talking about?
And so from my perspective, the atoms, the electrons, and searching for the smallest particle and the sort of things, it is still based on the same knowledge I just said. So we have to go look. For example, Einstein, or this guy who discovered the atoms, by the way, said there must be something small that creates this object. So he had this big aquarium with water in it, and he put pollen in it. And he was like looking very careful, and the pollen is moving. So how do we know he didn't create the atoms at that point, and we all the rest agreed upon it? And then now probably some scientists listen to, yeah, but come on, we have this expensive electron microscope, and we see this stuff. And then we're like, yeah, but it's not an absolute truth, because we go into the quantum realm of things. Okay, but then again, okay, we have to hold on to some truth and some essence. Then we say, okay, let's say the atom is true, and yes, indeed, there are particles in it that spin in certain ways and communicate with each other. Then yes, this is the truth, and yes, there is geometry in this, and yes, it communicates with each other, and yes, it's because everything is consciousness, and it's alive.
Yes.
So what we can do with geometry on the end, if to surpass the other atoms and that sort of things, from my view of things, we are living in a movie. We're living in a hologram. And then people think immediately, but if we live in a hologram, what is then real? Oh, help, I'm lost. But no, it actually frees, because when you realize you're just in a beautiful movie, all fear can drop. And then you can start to see what is real in this life, and that is the beauty. Because it doesn't matter, you partly or not simulation, whatever, and it's all one beautiful design, either God or a quantum computer, doesn't matter. It is absolutely beautiful. So then we come into a space where we can enjoy life. So what can we do with geometry? If we know this is a language beyond ourselves, where source energy projects itself to, and therefore we have the movie, because the geometry, the pattern, creates the movie. So if we can adjust the geometry, we can adjust the reality. So if we do this with the body, you can heal yourself, change yourself, learn new things, or have a new life experience. That's how deeply it works.
So for many people, though, let's say people that are more mainstream, and actually I come from a very mainstream mindset, science. This whole idea of a hologram and the illusion, and we're in this very beautiful and weird illusion. I think maybe a lot of people may not understand that. Yeah. So how did you get to this idea? I mean, you probably had some sort of great awakening experience. Could you tell us about it? What made you change?
It's not just one, it were many all over my life, where I had a thought and it happens, where I read a book and I experience what happens in the book. When I ask a big question to people, the universe, I experience it almost immediately. So I started thinking, how is this possible? Or, for example, what a lot of people have, you think about something, you put on the radio or put on a song, and it's exactly something about what you're just thinking. How the hell does that work? Is there some little angel on the other side of the dimension turning the radio on and off? Now play this? Of course not,
Yeah.
So, like, people see, suddenly see a sign on the street, and it's like, wow, this is about what I just was thinking, my biggest question. Then it's like, was this sign already there? No, you don't know. It's like the famous Schrödinger experiment. It's like, does the tree make a sound if it falls in the forest? It is all the same concept, So if I would tell the weird experiences I really experienced, I would see sometimes the reality pixelates, just like, certain objects come into reality and out of reality. And by the way, this is not something that's just experienced by a weird guy like me. A lot of people have this. There's a big group of different people, and they call it the Mandela effect. So there is a big group of people, and another big group of people have both different collective memories of what happened in the past. And this is a huge thing. If you just Google it, then you will spend days and days watching a lot of videos and wonder yourself what's going on. So, for example, how do you remember this Monopoly guy that's on the box of Monopoly?
I don't remember.
What does he look like? Anybody? No? You don't know this? You never played Monopoly?
I do, yeah. You see, he has a black suit. And a beard?
A hat.
A hat. Ah.
Yeah, but what else?
Does he have a stick? Does he have glasses? No. Yes. This is a beard.
Yeah, but what is on his face?
Money.
Anyway, there is a lot of people, and including me, who remember him with a Monopoly. But if you take now any old box, even from 30 years ago, you will take the box and suddenly there is no monocle on this anymore.
Mm.
And, we always compared rich guys and at that time with the high hats with a monocle, with the little chain on it and the chest pocket. So that's an example that a lot of people remember this completely different. It's also that the reality changes with it. And there is thousands of those examples. So it's not only a proof, but it's also a proof, if we go deeper into the matter, that realities can split up. And it has a lot to do with geometry, by the way.
Actually, I wanted to just add something here, because I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying. Because we all have that feeling sometimes we're in flow, where the right thing just happens at the right time, where you think about something and then, I'm just going to make my sound a bit lower. And then the things happen, or you think about the person calls. I think we all had some sort of experience like that. And so then, you truly question, why is this happening if all is just happening out of randomness and chaos? And there's also one really good scientific experiment with monkeys. You know the 100 monkey effect?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, and there is many more. It's also that I used to do this in my old lectures, that if you go to a certain part of the brain and you activate a certain memory there, and this is really measured, you take away certain parts of the brain, yes, and you do this sort of stuff, they cut away pieces of the brains. But if you still leave 5% there, still the whole information is contained within this whole part of the brain. Still though, this whole part of the brain will light up on the scan. So that's interesting. This piece of the brain is missing, but still completely light up, because the hologram has one very significant information thing. In every little particle is contained the same information as the whole. Mm-hmm. So it means even if we have to make an own hologram.
I mean, the universe is kind of like a fractal pattern, isn't it? You find the whole of the information within every single atom, actually. So that's why, everything is contained within everything else. But I still want to know, so tell me about one of those mind-opening spiritual experiences, because for a lot of people, that could be very interesting to know how you really started to see the reality as a hologram. Let's start with the most mind-opening experience.
I really saw it. I really saw all other dimensions and other realities, and not just with the third eye, but just with my eyes. Wow. And all my life, I see beings and dead people, and it's quite normal, Nowadays, I realize we are in such a beautiful creation. I don't see so much anymore, because there is no need for it. But when you're searching for life, you will find a lot of things. Reality will give you a lot of things to experience. So, the example was a nice one. So, when I saw other realities and other beings and light beings, and they're all like so much in love, and I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. Let's send them love too. And the moment I did do it, it disappeared. I was like, whoa, even my love for my heart, it's also not real. And then when I do nothing, it was all there back again in an instant. I'm like, whoa. Just so the love reality doesn't require me to be more love or super better, because there is always already present there. And this realization made me realize that I don't have to become better. I only have to do what I like to do. And of course, there is a bigger story to this. So I think this is the best spiritual experience, to realize that everything is exactly like it should be. And when you are in this space of feeling this way, then you can access your intuition, your expanded self. If you believe in this, it doesn't matter. Then you know when and what to do or not to do. And then you are exactly in the life what you should be. To simplify things. Okay, the weirdest spiritual experience is that I read a scary book from Stephen King, and then this also I experience in my real life. And I don't tell them who did this, but it was a scary book.
Oh God. Okay. I think I know. So anyway, so with Divine Tools, let's go back to that. So you're working a lot with sound, and I guess you're working also with geometries. You already mentioned it briefly. It helps us to get more healthy, or what else how does it affect people? How does it affect us?
It can be anything. So, but it still requires, we can play it. Yes, things happen. But if people also choose it and also have the intent for it, it amplifies. Because basically the codes what I use, what I record, make it a non-audible sound, amplify it of times, then I put it into music. So music is basically only emotional soundscape, emotional mask, what makes a right mood for feelings. But what it really does, I can also play it silently, and it still will do it work, because it is just an informational field. So you can imagine from your speakers would come just, some people can see it, just this fractal geometry coming out in endless form and filling the whole room or the space or the body. And then depending on what is the informational field, we can indeed heal mental, emotional, physical ailments.
No.
But you can also upload certain qualities instead of just to think only about healing, of course. So, but if somebody has a big belief system, it doesn't work. Then it will still work, but it can believe so hard it doesn't work. Then people think, yeah, but then it's just all placebo. But then we have to go back to the quantum reality. It responds to believe it is. So I know that there are people who tried this and they said, yes, something happened, even though I still don't believe it. So, but for the people who choose, because I believe choice is 50% of all work, for people who want to get better, they already done 50% of the work, and then anything what comes from the path will help them.
Yeah, I mean the placebo effect. It's a very, very strong effect. In science, we usually use it, to see how the medication works against this placebo effect. But actually, placebo effect itself, I always found this fascinating. That just because people have that intention or the knowledge or believe in it, it already starts to affect, your body.
It is not placebo. I think it's just the wrong wording for it. It's just adding new belief systems. And we have some belief systems which are unhealthy for ourselves. I am not worthy, I cannot do it, I am not loved, all those things, that's unhealthy belief systems. What if you could change those belief systems by the use of Divine Tools or other sort of works like this? I'm not the only one in the world who doing these sort of things, only the way I do it is unique. So it all helps as tools to adjust the human hologram. So remember, we have geometry, adjusting the geometry in the body. But if you will fight against it, of course, it will be not as effective if you say yes to it. Let's say it like this.
So what is it that we can do to the problems that we're facing right now? The humanity.
What problems?
Accept it? What problems, exactly? Just accept it.
The thing is, when we know we create a reality like it is created, just from my experience, people don't have to believe me on it, but all of you have examples, how this person called me, the radio on the phone, and all the examples I explained. So if we keep looking to certain media or portals, that sort of things, and they influence your state of thought and behavior, what already happens, I have just to look to the news and I'm already getting influenced. So actually, to be honest, if we go deeper, it's actually what I'm really doing. I believe in changing myself, how the way I see the world. The true power, what we really have, is to change how you see yourself in the world. If we believe in a world that needs healing, the quantum reality will give us a world that needs healing. You understand? So now we have done the healing work. We came from the Dark Ages, industrial period, wars. There's still some wars going on, I know, unfortunately. But we didn't have the consciousness to be aware of our unconscious. Now we are, you know? So we are now this far that we are aware of the conscious part of ourselves. We can say, wait a minute, if things behave the way I think it to be, can also choose, and it doesn't mean put your head in the sand and hostage. It means actually to acknowledge what's really playing, but saying, hey, I can be aware of what's going on, what is wrong in my eyes, so I can change the emotional and belief system I have about myself of what's playing, and I say, I choose to love it. And it doesn't mean to love it, say it's all okay. No, it means to understand you are living in trust with a defined plan and at the right moment. And then when you do this, almost indirectly, the reality will change with you. And therefore, the big challenge for me, myself too, is to stop believing in duality, evil forces, and all of those things, and transmute them all in me and saying, no, it's all love. And it's not just done in one moment. It's also really being transparent with yourself. So what we really can do about it is start loving every aspects of yourself. And when you can do this, you can start to see also the world like this. Because like we say, in the smallest particle contains the whole. So if you are the smallest particle, then the whole will change with it. It's no other way. I would like to add something. It's not just us, the mind, you know. It's us as complete self, the part we don't see or comprehend yet, most of us. So that means our expanded self, our higher self. It doesn't mean it's a separate person of you. It is your complete self, but is already ever present in all dimensions at the same time. Yes. You know, it's not just this. It is together with our belief systems and our feelings and our expanded self who actually put energy to the pattern, geometry, and therefore makes the life experience.
Yes. I personally... Yes. I personally believe that the more we align ourselves to this holographic divine pattern, is it with sound, with energy, is it with geometry and mathematics, I think we all get more into harmony and more into the flow in our scale, but also on the larger scales of whatever's happening around us. So I think that's actually what you're doing as well with divine tools, isn't it? You're trying to bring people together. And
yes, and there's many, luckily there are so many who are doing it, either to arts, music, sound healing, intense ceremonies. It all serves the same purpose, you know. Of course, some people are still identified maybe too much with what they do and therefore keep it as a broken record and therefore not stepping further into, like for example, saying, okay, we need healing, yes, we need, but then we come to the next point to say, hey, we don't need healing anymore. I am love. And then makes a lot of things obsolete. You know? So then we have to move on to the next thing we would like to create. You know? Then we come into the excitement of what we want to do. And it means excitement cannot be changing a big thing. You can also be very excited gardener and have an absolutely lovely life. You know?
Yes.
It can be anything.
Very nicely said. Okay. I have the last bit of this interview is we call it the hot 5 questions. Oh yes, very hot. Which basically just means you just quickly choose one of the options, right? Mm. So, what do you think came first, mind or matter?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
because nothing projects itself. And on the end, there is no matter or mind. It's a hologram.
Okay, fair enough. Which one do you follow more, science or philosophy?
Yeah, both. I have to read, so both.
Both, yes. Called metaphysics, isn't it?
Can I add something to it?
Yes.
No, I actually explained it before already. It's just because I love to philosophize a lot, you know, because just to talk and it comes up and suddenly, well, you have the new idea, you know, it's great. But science, in a way, works the same. It's only they use measurements, you know. They also say, what if I put this together with that or calculate it this way, do I come to an answer? So both, it's simple.
Yes, I agree. It's both a belief. One depends based on the hypothesis, the other one on philosophies or beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you prefer, geometry or music?
I've been geometry, of course, I have to say, but the truth is, I've been, of course, a musician and a DJ all my life. So, music, yeah, it's a big part. You know, it saved many times my life. You know? So, why you make me choose?
You don't have to.
Geometrically music.
Yes, you can. You can. There are no rules to this game. Okay. So, is the universe? How did it come into existence? Through chaos or via a divine plan?
A plan, yes. Is it divine? We don't know. We experience it many times like this, but is that not part of the experience? We don't know. We can never find out. But I say it is a plan, but this plan is not set in stone.
Yes, I like that. Okay. So last question: which one do you resonate with more, a sphere or a cube?
A sphere, but still both are lines, and either you're boxed in or out of it. So you understand? If you see the circle or the box, you can be in it or out of it. So both are too confined for me. But the sphere is beautiful round. But then again, you can play Tetris with the squares.
Exactly. you need the cube, yeah, to fill the gaps. All right. So for me, I'm quite through with my questions. Is there anything else you would like to share?
What would I like to share? So I've done lectures already some years ago, and I stopped with it because I was like, okay, how can I ever? Why I should tell my truth to others if they haven't discovered it themselves? So the only wish what I can do is for people to choose to love themselves, to see the world, to learn to see the world as harmony, that everything has its purpose. And when we start doing this, we come into the unbound space of our true self, where we can access our true feelings and emotions and insights, therefore discover to be in the path where we should be. Like, okay, what this guy is talking about, you can visit our website, www.define.tools, and have a check yourself. All is based on what you think is worth to you, so you can pay whatever you want and see if you like it. There's also free samples there, so check it out. Then I want to thank you, Heikki, and it's lovely you and your team are also doing all this work only on your unique way. And I've met you 3-4 years ago, and still you're doing strong, and I'm happy to see this.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I have actually added the link in the text, so you can just click it over there if you want to find out how these divine tools affect yourself. Yeah, there are some free samples, you can listen to them, and they got amazing knowledge as well on the website. So thank you so much, Eduard, for this nice interview across the globe. And maybe I see you in another dimension as well. Maybe I see you also in this life, but
just give me a call before, okay? Before you call.
All right. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
You too.